been a request for assistance. Do we have an update on that, Sue?
Well, the question, and I reached out to the town attorney, the reason that we have a legal responsibility for 917 River Road is because it's been deemed an ancient burial ground, because it has remains of veterans prior to 1780.
Right.
And that's the law in regard to town responsibility for private cemeteries extends to those that contain the remains of veterans who are deceased prior to 1780. And so Moulton Cemetery has been identified as having Civil War veterans, but that doesn't create the Revolutionary War, which is the 1780 that we're talking about for ancient burial grounds, wouldn't qualify for that. However, the people, and as you know, the town is precluded from spending public money on private property without some required purpose, such as the ancient burial ground piece that we are going through with 917 River Road. But the people that are looking for assistance, we're talking about fundraising and could Public Works assist with moving things and those kind of things. And as I said, I've reached out to our attorney. I have not gotten a response back on to what extent that would be possible. But the idea that the town could support a fundraising effort, a private fundraising effort to assist in the repair of the stones in that cemetery, is we certainly could do that. It's just the idea of the legal responsibility that the town doesn't extend unless it's deemed to be an ancient burial ground, because it is a private cemetery, not a public one. So that's where we stand right at this moment. I'm happy to meet with the group on behalf and talk about fundraising possibilities, those kind of things, but I can't commit town funds or personnel unless we get something back from the attorney saying that is legal in these circumstances.
Okay, so the fundraising would be the people that have reached out to us. Are they talking about doing?
They were talking about raising money to do repair of the stones and that were damaged. Chris, have you talked to anyone about this or heard anything in regard to this?
About Moulton?
Yes.
No, I have not. I went out there and took some photos of the damage, but I don't even know who. You've obviously had contact with somebody about who manages that, or who identifies with that cemetery as being a caretaker.
I have emails. I'll forward them to you from this group that made this request. I'll forward them to the whole committee so you can see what they're asking.
If you do that, I'm going to put that up on the Cemetery Drive folders and keep track of all that. I'm just confused as to the role. So my understanding after listening to you is that the town doesn't identify as being responsible for the maintenance of that cemetery, as opposed to like Oak Hill. That's a different situation there?
Yes.
Okay.
There are those for which they're considered town-owned and those that are considered private.
Private. And Moulton is a private, not a town-owned.
Yes, that's
okay.
Correct.
Thank you for clearing that up. There are veterans, I believe, in the Moulton Cemetery, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not 100% sure of that, but I can check the records.
There are veterans there. The law with regard to responsibility and private cemeteries limits the town's responsibility to those that are considered ancient burial grounds. And ancient burial grounds is 1780 and earlier.
Right. I understand that. I'm just,
It's my understanding there are Civil War veterans but that is not prior to 1780.
Right.
That's the 1800s.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to understand how all this works. Was it my understanding that the town went out and cleared some brush away from the perimeter of the cemetery just before this action happened? That the Public Works had gone out there and done some maintenance, or am I mistaken?
I am not aware of that, no.
Okay, and it may be something I misread. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to understand what the relationship of the town is to these cemeteries and how they work. And that essentially is a closed cemetery. Am I correct on that now? Because it's been a long time since anybody's been in there, but has been interred.
It's on private property and not part of the public
All right.
access piece.
Does the town still mow out there?
I would have to check, Kathy. I don't believe, but I would.
I know at one time they used to mow, but I don't know.
See, that's the question I have is how's this relationship work if there is one? Above and beyond the legal issues, is there a history here of involvement with these cemeteries, these private cemeteries, and how do we identify our relationship? Is there an MOU that's been developed over time? I'm just trying to understand how that works. I'll talk about the rest of it later. I'm just curious as to how all this is managed between the two, the groups. But if you've got information on who those folks are there that have come and asked for that kind of assistance, it would be nice to, as you said, you'd share it with the committee so we could know who these people are. So
I will do that.
thank you.
Okay.
And is there any objection if I reach out to them to have a conversation about what exactly their goals are and fundraising and all that kind of thing?
Well, I think there would be no objection from me.
No.
The other question I've got is, were they on the list of the cemeteries that was sent assistance, monetary assistance by the town council this year? I think you folks voted in a $200 stipend or something to help the cemeteries.
Yes.
Were they on that list? And who got that money? I mean, that right there could establish a relationship already that, I was in favor of it. I just wanted to know, who got it and how it was tracked. That's all.
Yep.
Now this brings up that question again. If we've already started doing that, have we set a policy to follow? So.
And this year they added another 200 to each one of them. So
Right. Yeah.
So it went from 300 to 500 for.
Yeah.
I will follow up on that. Send you the information up from the group that has, or the gentleman that's been in contact with me about this, and see if I can set up a meeting to talk to him or them in regard to that, plus the town funding that's been extended prior to this.
And that's great. I'm really happy that the town did that. What makes me wonder is how that's tracked, or it was great that they did it. It's just, I don't know if there's any reporting back on how that money was spent by these cemeteries. And that's not a big issue with me. It's just, I noticed that, we try to be careful as to how we extend out our funds to various groups. And I really think that it's good that the town did that. And I hope that the town is now on its way to providing more services to all these cemeteries, whether they own them or not. That's my editorial comment for now.
Larry, did you have any questions or anything regarding the whole Moulton Cemetery and the damages? And okay.
I was gonna run up and take a look myself, but I never got time.
Well, I'll forward you the email, and there are pictures in that as well, but there's also contact information for people who are interested in that topic. So I will do that.
Okay.
That cemetery is located in Long Pond.
It's out, yes,
It's
out.
way out there. I think you actually go into Dedham at one point to get in there.
Mhm.
And then it's a pretty good road until the last half mile, and then it's like a dirt road. If you want to go out sometime, Larry, give me a holler. I'll show you where it is.
Is that it for any other comments or concerns for Moulton?
Well, the only thing I would say is I hope we can get going on it, whatever that means. And if it means repairing those stones or helping those folks repair those stones, the sooner the better. We've already established a support policy here among some of these cemeteries. Again, it would be nice to know if they were included on that. So the precedent is there to provide help, and that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we will now move on to 917 River Road Cemetery update.
Okay, 917 River Road, the site has been prepared. The path completed, the perimeter defined, where that's going to be. Public Works, both Matt and Jay have reached out to our local monument place with questions about the feasibility of trying to relocate the stones from Riverview to that site because of their age, condition, and original materials. They're pretty fragile, and the information that they've received is that would be a difficult process that could result in damage to the stones. In thinking about this and where they are right now, those stones the public can see them. Mm-hmm. There's access there. If they are moved, there's a way figured out to do it. Public access to them is lost. They would be going onto private property only, and the property owners have no legal responsibility to allow anyone to be on the property. And so in thinking about it, what would the committee think about having all of those, the information of those, put on a memorial kind of stone in the location where the ground is prepared, leaving the originals where they are? It's certainly commemorative and respectful, but it doesn't run the risk of damaging them further. But more importantly, it also allows public viewing for people who are interested in those kind of things before we move forward with trying to dig those stones up and relocate them to another place.
If you relocated them, you wouldn't know where they went in.
What's that?
If you relocated them to the original cemetery, you wouldn't know where they went in, where the graves were.
Well, no, it would just be in the area that's been defined. And I have more. Jay went with Dan Robinson, who used to live up there when he was a child. And Dan remembers playing on that hill around those stones, and his memory is that, where the stone is that already exists that says that it's the old Methodist burying ground. That stone's there. But just before that, slightly into the trees, is the area where he said that the stones were, not further into the woods. They were closer out to the edge. And when Jay walked down in there, there's depression that you can see that may have been a more accurate location than when we were looking over closer to the foundation that was there. That being said, that area is all trees now, and would be really difficult to remediate in any way. I think the area that's currently been defined, cleared, prepared is a good one, and that the only question is what goes in that. Is it a stone that lists all the names that we know of? Is it, how does the committee want to proceed with this? The idea is to respectfully commemorate the people that were interred in that cemetery, even though it's not on the exact spot, but to the best of our ability. And I'm not sure that moving the stones is the best idea, that perhaps a better idea is to have all of the names that are there on stone, engraved on stones that indicate that, and then have that private cemetery maintained twice a year by Public Works, which is what the law requires in regard to that.
I think also it's going to be really difficult to move those stones from that cemetery because I think they would break easily and probably even.
The material that they're made of is more porous than.
Yeah, and it would crush.
They've been where they are for 40 years or so, and the person at the monument place said that kind of a thing would be a very difficult thing to. It certainly isn't anything Public Works could try, and because they don't have the expertise or the whatever it would take to be able to do that. And as I said, that's the information that we have from them, which is that it's it's a risk.
Yeah, I would not want to risk it, but I just think if we leave it there, that we should indicate it with something around it, so when people go to look for it, it would easily pop out, possibly. And I think there is a stone up there, a big stone up there already on that 917.
Yes.
If we could do some type of plaque or something to add all the names in memory of them and fence around that. I just don't see how we could move any of those stones without them like disintegrating, in little crumbles. What's your thought, Chris? I know you're involved in the cemetery up there.
Well, not anymore. I was involved for a long time.
Oh, okay.
At a minimum, those stones have to come off where they are right now. They cannot be laying on the ground anymore and being run over by lawnmowers and other who knows what. So they're getting destroyed by the fact that they're off the ground. At a minimum, they need to come off the ground. And my feeling is, if you're going to do that, there has to be somebody out there that knows how to move these things and get them back to 917. And again, it's not a place where people would come to be, I don't want to say amused or entertained. This is out of respect for the people that were buried at 917. My idea would be ideal to get those things back somewhere at least to where the lot was cleared over there. And the other thing I wanted to say too, as an ancillary to 917, is I've been scanning a lot of material, as you know, including most of the records, if not all the records that were in the library concerning cemeteries. one of the items I read was from a lady in the 1930s who went to 917 and did an inventory and remarked about how many disinterments she witnessed there, a lot of that had already taken place, which, if true, suggests to me that that cemetery was being, I don't want to say cleared, but people, there were removals going on over the long term, I guess, with the idea that it wasn't going to be taken care of in the long run. And I assume things were being moved to Riverview at that time, or other cemeteries in the town. So this wasn't something that everybody just got left there. It appears to me that there are a lot of removals. That said, getting back to this, those are slate stones, I believe. And those stones have been around for a long time. The way they're located, just being on the ground there, is just the worst thing that could happen to them. And I just don't think it's respectful to the people to leave those stones up at Riverview. And I don't have an answer as to where they should go at 917. And I know it's going to cost money and it's going to take time, and that's the price of doing business, I guess. So that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts.
I have to agree with Chris. I think they belong up in the original cemetery.
In what?
They belong where they.
917. And I don't disagree that is the best location. As I said, we've had some difficulty getting anybody who was willing to say they would take that on. We certainly can put out an RFP for the removal of those and picking up and see what we get for that. That's the best way, I guess, that we could look at how it is. And those people that do that, I think, would have good and credible advice on how best to handle them.
And my assumption is not that these stones are going to be placed vertical back at 917. I just don't. Was it 917? I just don't see that as a possibility now. And maybe they can be placed on a granite slab or something of nature like that that's elevated off the ground, perhaps at an angle. I've seen things like that. Now, I'm not sure that's even a good idea. But there are people out there that move these stones and repair these stones. I know there was a Mr. Whedon from Arlington did it in town back in the 90s and had a business going. I'm not sure the gentleman is even still alive, but there are people out there that are chain falls and things like that with harnesses and can move things around. There's no guarantee. You're absolutely right. What's going to happen to these stones? But right now they're in bad shape and need to be.
Yeah, they are.
Need to be moved off the ground at least.
So would the committee support me putting out an RFP to seek proposals for the relocation of those stones?
I would. I'd also support setting a budget for this process, including placement of the stone. Get ideas about placements of the stones once they're moved over there, if they're moved over there. That we have a plan on how to place that and what that's going to cost to get that done.
We currently have $18,000, which is what remains of the appropriations from the 2 years for this purpose. The first 2,000 was the scan, but we still have $18,000 currently available to us for this project also. So
now that we're talking money, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. That's very rude. I'm sorry.
No. I was just saying that's what, in terms of putting out an RFP, it's not that we lack any funds to do things. I'm saying that there is funding available for us to have a credible way to do that if that's the committee's wish.
I think if the money's there and the council's approved it, then we need to move forward with this and get it taken care of. And by the way, that hopefully that money would hold out to do the fencing and other things that we talked about previously.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
How big an area is set aside?
What's that?
How big an area is set aside?
It's approximately 30 feet by 30 feet.
Okay.
Which I think would be big enough for the stones and another one stone that lists all the other names that we
Mhm.
don't have stones for. Was
It may not even be there for that matter, but that's okay. We can move forward. Some of those may have been disinterred in the past and just never got recorded. That's what I was referring to, that lady's report in 37, when she went in there and saw what appeared to be a lot of disinterments over time. So who knows what, if they're there or if they're not there. That's the difficult issue as well. But the $18,000 is a start. The budget process will be coming on in the spring. We don't have a cemetery committee line or anything, do we, in the budget? Is there a expense line in there or for cemeteries?
not beyond what the $10,000 annual appropriation for the past 2 years that's been targeted towards towards 917 is the first time that there's ever been
Mhm.
funding beyond just the regular appropriations that they do to each of these cemeteries.
Great, thank you.
But you're right, our budget process put together in March, and then the council gets it at the end of April, and we start hearings, and the council gets it the beginning of April. We start hearings then through May, so that budgeting process and the idea that there's more cemeteries that need attention would certainly indicate that we should take a look at an additional appropriation under, whether it's under Public Works, at the cemeteries line item that contains funding or what.
Is somebody hurt or am I guess not.
No, it was my dog.
Oh, okay.
My grand dog
Sounds like
decided
somebody's
to come
getting
up
beat up.
and speak to me.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sue. That's what I was interested in knowing as well. We gotta get going. That's all I have on 917. But I do have some questions once you're ready or some comments.
So the consensus is that I'll draft up an RFP, I'll send it out to the committee, give me feedback on whether it appropriately addresses what we want to do. We'll get that out with an idea that the work would need to be completed by the end of May in 2022. Is that?
That's a great goal. I'm not sure we'll get there by that time, but it's a great goal. The other thing is the RFP needs to include placement strategy for placing, how we're going to place these, whether they're going to be mounted onto something else, but something that won't be much like they are now, laying flat on the ground. But at the same time, I'm not sure we'll be able to, with the point making them vertical, and planting them into some sort of base. I'm not that smart about this stuff, but something that will obviously acknowledge them, but also protect it from just being on the ground again. But to get them off that ground for me is paramount, and getting them back is paramount as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, like I said, I'll do this and I'll get this done. Today's Tuesday. If I get this out to you a week from today, you can look it over. We'll get it. I'll also reach out and see if I can get some names of places that do this, that I can send them the copy of it rather than wait for them to see it somewhere.
Great. If I have any information, should I share it with the committee as well as to vendors or possible people?
Absolutely. When I send this out, add lists of anyone that you think is helpful.
Okay.
It's not on the agenda, I apologize, but the damage in Oak Hill Cemetery, which is
I was going to ask that.
is not covered by insurance from where the trees fell on it. And so we will be appropriating funds to have those repaired as well as part of this upcoming budget, too. Right now, we have, it was 12 or 15, I think, that are damaged.
Actually, I counted 7. I counted 7 for the damage.
Oh, I thought that Jay had told me 12, but whatever amount there are, there's not an insurance coverage, so we will be needing to appropriate money to do that.
Is that information that you'd be willing to, I know I don't want to do a freedom of access or any of that, but can we track that on a Google Drive that we have the folder set up, that kind of a relationship, answers back and forth with the lawyer? Would that be something that we could do? And that, because I'll talk about that in a little while, what I'm trying to do here. But that's great news. It's unfortunate that well, it isn't great news in that it's no insurance, but it's great news that you've addressed it and we're moving forward to get it fixed. Thank you.
Yep. No, I had gotten that information, but there wasn't anything I could do until I have money in order to do it.
Sure.
Or designated money in order to do it. So.
So, Chris, did you have some questions or concerns you wanted to bring up?
No, just a couple comments here. Membership. It would be nice to have more members on this committee. Of course, Kate has got issues with day meetings and stuff, but how does the committee, how do you, Madam Chairman, feel about increasing the membership on this committee? I don't think she heard me. You're muted.
Yes, I'm muting because my dog is going crazy. That's something we would have to present to the council, and they would have to approve to have more members. Correct, Sue?
Well, I think so. I made a note here that to find the origin of the cemetery committee and its initial composition. What's it supposed to be composed of? Because I'm not sure that I know that, but I want to find that, and that way, if it requires some amendment by the council to add more members, we can do that. But if membership numbers have never been defined, then we can just seek more members. It's A or B, and that's okay. I have it out here to find when that first was done. So.
Okay, a couple of things. At the last meeting, I know Kate Hessler and I talked about identifying veterans. Kate has contacted me. She's been, she's busy at school and doing things all the day, so she did not get back to me on the veterans at this time. There is a lot of information available on veterans. It's already been pretty well established by citizens before this, but I'm going to redo it and renew as much as I can on veterans in the cemeteries here in Bucksport. You folks know what I've been doing with scanning documents and where I'm storing those documents, and you all have access to those folders. And that folder is resident at the town of Bucksport, the main folder is. All the documents that Bob Briggs gave me from his committee work in the 90s have been all scanned and included up there. So the historical records from the cemetery records from the library, from the Bucksport Historical Society, I'm about 90% done with all those. You can go in and see all that historical data. There's great repetition in some of this material, and you'll see lists time and time again. I didn't sit there to call out this stuff. I was just scanning and getting it up there. But you will see contact lists of all the members, their contact information there. Eventually, sooner than later, it would be nice to make some of this material, if not all of it, available to the public. And I know we've talked about sharing this link with the library and with the Historical Society, at least the historical data part of it, if not everything. But I would just want to urge the members of the committee to take a look at that folder. If you can't find it, it will be in the shared with me tab in Google Drive, and all the material you ever thought you'd want to see is in there. I have not gotten into the town to do the towns yet. I did the old Methodist Church town records. Much of them are repetitive from what the library had. So that doesn't mean eventually I will get in and get that stuff scanned and make that all available as well. So all records, cemetery records in the town should be consolidated, the ones I have access to, in one folder, and that folder would be backed up for security reasons as well. That I wanted to let you folks know. If you haven't taken a look in there, please do. I don't need a pat on the back. I just want you to see what's there, because there's a lot of information there. And I think it will help us as we go forward to understand what's available, what has been done, especially in the 90s. I have newspaper articles that are going to be going in here soon. But take a look at it and let me know if it causes you some concern. Thank you.
Great job, Chris. Thank you.
You're welcome. Larry, I can help you access that if you want sometime.
I think you already have.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. And that's it for me.
Do you have anything you want to add, Larry, or questions?
I had a question on, if anyone has ever looked into grants to help out with town-owned cemeteries.
Not to my knowledge. I haven't, staff-wise I haven't, and I'm not sure. I would have to research what may or may not be available of that nature. But we haven't.
I have another question following up on that. When cemeteries are, I don't know what the word is, when private cemeteries are, shall we say, assumed by the town, such as Oak Hill. When Oak Hill came under the town's responsibility, there was a certain amount of money that came with it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot. I think it was like $39,000 or $40,000. I may be mistaken on that. Is that money invested or transferred into a special account? How is that process done with that? Or is it just put into a general fund?
No, it's invested in Wells Fargo. It's an investment account that's specifically for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
About how much is?
I can't, off the top of my head, I can't tell you, but I would have to look it up. I'm not going to guess, but I know that we get the statement every month from it.
Great, thank you.
Where it comes from. But I will look it up and get you that information too.
Again, please take a look at that. I'm not asking here for myself. Please take a look at that Google folder. It's got a tremendous amount of information in it. And it just, eventually I'd love to get it out to the public, because I think, well, the goal is to get the historical data out to the public anyhow as soon as possible, so people will be able to see what was in the records at the library as well as the Historical Society. Photos are going to be involved in it eventually. The Historical Society is doing inventory and accessioning policies now. So all of that will be online as well. You'll be able to see what they have and understand. So there's a lot of information being developed here. And I think it's important for the town officials to be on top of it as it comes out. And that will help them a lot, I think. And that's it. I'm done. Thank you.
I don't have any information. I think we've covered a lot. And thank you, Chris. I think that on the Riverview is great insight. So as we move forward.
Well, Kathy, I hope you survive your dog until the next meeting. It sounds like you missed it. Yeah.
She goes home today.
Oh, okay.
Yes. She keeps me busy.
Do you want to schedule another meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Could we just schedule it for a certain date and time every month and just have?
I was going to ask that. Can we set out a schedule, if not monthly, quarterly, that we can depend on? And if we have to move it off that, I agree 100%. Let's start scheduling these meetings and go from there. I think it's really important that we do this. Thank you for bringing that up.
What is a good time and day?
Well, I'm retired now, so, you know, most of my schedule's open.
If we,
I mean, is Katie able to attend if we did it at a different time?
Well, she's in school all day, you know.
she's
that-
in school all day, so that it doesn't allow for it. If we did the first Tuesday, and we did it, at least for now, every other month, I'm not sure how much we're going to have to process on a monthly basis, but if we are going to put out an RFP, 2 months would be enough time for that to get out, stuff to get back, and the committee to make a decision by the beginning of February.
Yeah, I think that's a great start. That's better than I'd hoped originally. I was thinking quarterly. I'm glad you brought it up, but every other month would be a great start. And if we have to meet more often, we will. How's that?
So the first Tuesday at 11 a.m., starting today's December, so it would be February would be the first one.
Yep.
And then what I'm going to do is just go on the website and post these for the next year. If we have to add or change, we can, and then I'll review it there.
And it's important to get the agenda up. By the way, the agenda I pulled that off the website and put that into the drive, so that agenda and minutes are all in a folder all by themselves all the way back through the last couple of years. So you can see all those on there as well. But that's great because now we can plan on it, and I think the public will appreciate that more and be a lot more transparent because we've got a lot more information out there.
So our meetings would be February, April, June, August, October, and December of this year, of 22.
Yep.
And after the meeting, I will go on, as I said, and post those for 11 o'clock on those dates moving forward, so they're already there.
Okay, I got it written down. All right, sounds good. If we have no further questions or information, we can adjourn.
I think that's a great idea. A motion to adjourn.
Okay. I'll
At
second.
11:45.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay,
Larry,
thank you.